Over the past few weeks, we've been reporting on the dangerous wildfires burning across Europe. Now the UK is suffering its own major incident, with a huge wildfire burning in Suffolk. Firefighters are still trying to bring it under control, with the situation being closely monitored by the nearby Sizewell B nuclear power station. The Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, says that he is receiving regular updates about what he called a very serious incident. Here's our science and technology editor, Tom Clark.
Hot on the heels of drought and record-breaking heat, fire season has arrived in England. Raging between the sea, a nuclear power plant, coastal caravans and cottages, this Suffolk heathland is ablaze. All the wildfire needs is fuel and a breeze to fan the flames, both in abundance here. Tinder-dry scrub funneling flames into parched trees above. The wind is now taking the fire away from the Sizewell B nuclear power plant, but on this popular stretch of Suffolk coast, it still threatens homes and holiday parks. And wildlife too. This coastal heathland and adjacent wetlands are nationally important habitat. In the early hours, the fire service had the blaze under control, but then the wind picked up. A helicopter, 18 appliances from across the country, and 120 firefighters are now hurrying to contain it.
They are confident that their tactics are working and they are making good progress, attacking the fire from the north of where the fire is by digging trenches and filling in with water as well, and that seems to be working. So good progress is being made. That said, anything could still happen until the fire is out completely, so it's still moving about at the moment.
The scene below me is pretty apocalyptic. This enormous wildfire, 100 hectares it's covering, spreading right down to the sea. I can see numerous fire crews spread out, and the fire's broken up into multiple fronts, with the winds changing erratically apparently at the moment, making it all that more difficult to contain and control.
Power has been cut to around 116 homes as flames encroach on pylons. Dozens of people were evacuated overnight from homes and caravans threatened by the fire and given refuge at this village hall.
It was concerning. It wasn't too frightening because at that stage the fire wasn't too close to ourselves and our lodge.
As we were leaving Minsmere Road, we could see red flames sort of behind Mount Pleasant Farm, that sort of area, so we knew we'd made the right decision.
The fire is dwarfed by those on the continent in recent days, but it's still visible from space. A heat-detecting NASA satellite picking up this hot spot over Suffolk. And this latest assessment of fire danger shows how much of central and southern England and Wales are now at higher wildfire risk. Whatever the spark, wildfires are an inevitable consequence of weeks without significant rain and one heat wave after another. For the emergency services, infrastructure providers and anyone else who's experienced this summer's weather, a reminder of the new normal to which we have to adapt, while a changing climate holds our feet to the fire. Tom Clark, Sky News, Dunwich Heath in Suffolk.
And Tom joins us now from Suffolk. Tom, we've been following this story closely all day. What's the latest tonight?
Hi, Sarah-Jane. Well, from up here only a couple of hours ago, there was thick black smoke coming from the fire, which is a few kilometres away behind me, and we can't see it now. Is that because, as the fire service say, the fire is stable and the efforts they're making seem to be heading in the right direction? Or could it be the wind's changed direction? Because that's the other thing that's happened since I was here a couple of hours ago. The wind was carrying the fire north, away from Sizewell B and from the forests around the Minsmere Nature Reserve, which they were worried might catch fire and take it on further south. The wind's now shifted and picked up a bit. The breeze is blowing towards me in a southerly direction. So that's what the firefighters are dealing with, is the fire on the ground. They've got assets out there. They bring them in from London, we understand now, I think to relieve other appliances. We saw some from the Suffolk Fire Rescue Service leaving the site. I think there's a bit of a shift change going on. Also, helicopters dropping water. We saw one working over the fire just a few minutes before we came on air. So that could be it, but they've also, it's the weather conditions, how that wind behaves. The other thing they're hoping for, you might have heard earlier in the broadcast that there's wet rain forecast for East Anglia. They haven't seen much in recent weeks, but there could be the prospect of showers overnight. That would definitely help efforts as well.
Yeah, it will. But meanwhile, those there are being told to brace themselves for more of this to come.
That's absolutely right. I mean, only yesterday I was out reporting on the declaration of drought across half of England, nearly all of the south of England, and as we now know, all of Wales is now in drought. It's not just the lack of rain, of course, it's that heat that we've been having, successive heat waves. I think in July, 12 consecutive days of 30-degree temperatures or above. That's taken all the moisture out of the soil and vegetation. It's tinder dry, and wildfires will happen wherever there's a spark, however that might, whatever that might be, the cause might be. And it fits very much in with what climate modelers are telling us. We're going to expect, when we get hotter summers in the UK, they're going to be that little bit hotter. We're also going to expect a bit more high pressure over the UK, which we've seen dominating pretty much all summer since the middle of June. And we had that other very dry spell in May as well. And you've also got the prospect of wetter winters, and that doesn't help fires either, because it actually stimulates the growth of vegetation. You get more stuff to burn, especially in these sort of more wild, brushy habitats, and that's an issue too. And that is going to be, I think, a new reality. It's not every year we're going to get wildfires. It very much depends on the weather. But when they come, they are going to be significant. And we've already got some evidence and data out today that shows, although we have not broken last year's record for the number of wildfires in the UK, mind you, it's only July, remember, in terms of the area of England, Wales and Scotland that have burned, it's already exceeded the total for 2025, where we saw many more wildfires. So they seem to be getting bigger as well, and that's telling us something too.
Tom, thank you. Tom Clark there in Suffolk Forest tonight. Well, joining me now, Andrew Turner, Chair of Westleton Parish Council. You'll have seen his local village hall in Tom's report, very much the focal point for those who have been evacuated. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrew. Just your thoughts on what's been going on today.
Well, from our perspective, it's just been a very good example of a community coming together to help the neighbouring community. Clearly, the fires are devastating. What the crews are doing is extraordinary. But here in the village, we've managed to pull together to help another community. So it's been good.
Yeah, Andrew, how much warning did you get about the severity of these fires?
I received a message last night that some people from Dunwich were arriving in the pub, and so went down to the village hall, and it then became clear that people were coming through and some of them were going to be needing accommodation. So we then just started getting things into, just putting things in motion. To be fair, it was our village hall committee who really led the way. They were absolutely fantastic. And last night we were able to accommodate, I think, upwards of 60 people in houses across our village.
And Andrew, we're just seeing some pictures on our screens there of trees going up within seconds. Such dramatic images that, unfortunately, we've got used to seeing from across Europe, but less so here in the UK. Very dramatic scenes from where you live. Have you ever had anything like this in your area before? And where did this evacuation plan come from? Where was there the preparedness there, or is it something that you had to come up with last night?
So far as the fire is concerned, I haven't seen something of this size. We had a fire a few years ago which actually came to the edge of the village, which was pretty scary, but nothing on this scale. Fortunately for us, this isn't quite so close to the village. In terms of the evacuation plan, well, actually, my understanding is that people leaving Dunwich last night were just told to stop at Westleton. And we didn't have any warning. But once that happened, we called the district council, and they have an emergency planning unit, and which is set up precisely for these occasions. And they came out, and once they took over, there was a sense that this could be managed as it has been.
Yeah, and Andrew, talk to me about... Oh, I was just going to say...
the district council has been fantastic.
Yeah, talk to me about some of the families that you've been providing help to. We saw some of them there in Tom's report. As you said, you know, your village hall accommodating a large number of people. Just tell me some of the stories that families have been telling you.
Well, I can only tell you the ones that I know directly. We housed two families last night. One of them has now gone home. The other family is still here tonight. They were both at the campsites at Dunwich, and and all of their stuff is still at the campsite. To be honest, today's been okay for them because we've luckily got a big garden, we've got a place to swim, so the kids have been occupied. I'm not so sure about all of the others, but I hope the experience we've been able to show the two families who are with us has been a good one.
Yeah, and the lines of communication between the council, yourselves as part of the sort of evacuation efforts and the fire and rescue services, how much information are you getting?
It's been pretty good, and that is all down to the district council's emergency planning unit. They come in, they create the link between us and the emergency services, and so from this morning onwards, there has been a good level of information about what is going on in the fire itself and what is necessary here in order to manage the evacuation and the families who needed the assistance. So it's been okay.
Yeah, and Andrew, you know, your area is still in the middle of this, you know, the blaze still being brought under control by fire services. But from what we've been hearing throughout the course of this week is that these heat waves are here to stay. They will be more frequent. These dry conditions, drought conditions will be more regular than they have been. It's something that we're going to have to learn to get used to and live with. So I would imagine when this is done, those are the kind of plans that will be talked about locally.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, sadly, this appears to be the new normal. And I mean, as a parish council, we have been, since that fire we had a few years ago next to the village, we've been cutting fire breaks through a common which we own. But I think we're going to be needing to speak to neighbouring organisations where these fires have been taking place today to talk about the same.
Well, listen, Andrew, I really appreciate your time tonight. Andrew Turner, their chair of Worcestershire Parish Council, one of the local parish councils springing to action to support their neighbours who are affected by the wildfires there in Suffolk. We'll continue to monitor the situation here on Sky News. Andrew, thank you for your time. Well, to discuss what the coming weeks and months might have in store right across the country, I'm joined now by Philip Garrigan, chair of the National Fire Chiefs Council. Philip Garrigan, thank you for joining us here on Sky News tonight. Just opening up the picture nationally, we're just hearing from Andrew there saying something that everyone's been saying this week. What we're witnessing may well become the new normal. That means your organisations are going to be pretty busy. What have you been seeing nationwide over the last few weeks?
Yeah, look, I think it is the new normal, to be fair, and kind of revert back to probably 2018. We had Saddleworth Moor, Winter Hill. That was probably the start of the kind of real significant focus on wildfire, and those incidents become really clear in the kind of the psyche of the fire and rescue service, but more recently in the public and government's eyeline. And look, you know, 2018 was a particularly busy period, but 2022 was even busier. We had 14 major incidents declared in the July period, similar to timescales that we're dealing with now. And that was putting fire and rescue services under considerable pressure. 2025, if you move on to there, that's the busiest period we've had for wildfires ever on record. And as it stands now, we're on about 716 wildfires since the start of the year, which if I was kind of forecasting where we'd be at the end, I think you're probably into the busiest wildfire period for us. And as has been referenced by kind of colleagues previously, the fires are getting more intense and they're lasting for longer. So, the hotter, drier summers, the wetter winters are certainly compounding matters.
Yeah, it's presenting new and significant challenges for those involved in the fire services. Like you're talking about the figures there, nearly 400 wildfires recorded in July so far, making it the busiest July on record for wildfires in England and Wales. How has the problem changed? Would it be that in summers gone past, you would know of the hotspots, for want of a better phrase, those areas that were likely to present with fires? Is it now a case that if it can happen anywhere because the conditions are so different?
Yeah, look, as I say, extremely hot summers and wet winters are exacerbating the challenges for firefighters. But as you say, the wildfires are appearing everywhere across the UK. There isn't probably a fire and rescue service that hasn't dealt with a wildfire over the course of the last number of months. And as you referenced, July particularly, the busiest July on record. And in the last 2 weeks, we've had over 200 wildfires. That's the challenge. But not only is it in rural communities, it's making its way into urban environments too, and the necessity for fire and rescue service to protect critical infrastructure, protect the natural environment, but also protect people's homes and livelihoods. And that is really at the forefront of our decision making now, how we can protect communities from the threat of fire, and how we can use all of our resources and capabilities to do that. And as has been exemplified in Suffolk, we bring firefighters in from across the UK on occasions to support a particular local fire and rescue service, and we continue to do that. And we've had support from government more latterly around specialist capabilities, which can assist fire and rescue services with really challenging circumstances, and we really welcome that. We look for that to be sustained over the course of the next number of years, because, as you've said, this isn't a one-off. This is a kind of a change now from a climate perspective, and certainly one that the fire and rescue service has to ensure it's got the capabilities to be able to deal with into the future.
Yeah, new challenges, new ways of working if this is going to become more frequent. Presumably that's going to need more investment, because just looking at the scale of the fire today, that is a complicated, long-term, in terms of, days, situation.
Yeah, and look, we welcome the Prime Minister's kind of comments, particularly in relation to the Suffolk incident and the support, and that he intends to provide to the fire and rescue service to ensure that it's equipped for the future. So we've already had some government investments into around £1 million to support the development of the capability. But as the risk changes, as the threat increases, it's important that we get ahead of it and we're not lagging behind, and we've got the capabilities, the resources, the equipment to be able to resolve these incidents. And looking, firefighters are on the front line of that climate change. They are dealing with these incidents in particularly arduous conditions, and I kind of pay testimony to their professionalism and their dedication. I think we owe them a massive debt of thanks. It is a team game, and you look across the emergency services, they're all working together. And Andrew just kind of commented on the multi-agency response to the incident. And we all work together to resolve things and protect communities, but particularly our firefighters are right on the front line of climate change at this moment in time.
And just a final question, Andrew, about the public and what the public can do, because these are challenging conditions for everyone. Everybody's got to do their bit to keep their communities safe, particularly, as you say, it's not just rural areas that are affected, urban areas. Before we came on air, I saw some footage on social media of Romford, which is sort of East London, dry land there, moving toward houses. People think, oh, it won't happen here. We're on a housing estate, but if you've got a local park with some trees, these things can happen. What would you say to the public about staying vigilant and doing their bit?
Yeah, look, as I say, in 2022, Wellington was seeing the fire spread from the rural environment to the urban environment.
I remember it well. My parents lived just down the road, and we covered it here on Sky News. It was incredible scenes.
So look, what would we say to members of the public? Clearly be vigilant. And if they are in the risk area, kind of move away. Follow the direction of the emergency services. Sometimes, people don't take the message seriously, and they'll remain in the risk area for too long. If they are exposed to some of the smoke, which self-evidently would emanate from these large-scale fires, close your windows and doors. I appreciate it's hot. Get yourself a fan. Make sure you keep hydrated. But if you are worried, you're concerned, move away from the risk area. Go and stay with family and friends while the smoke dissipates.
Well, Andrew, look, really good of you to come on tonight. Andrew Turner there. I beg your pardon, not Andrew Turner. Philip Garrigan, Chair of the National Fire Chiefs Council. Andrew was my guest before. Thank you so much for coming on to talk to us about that and this national response. We're monitoring the situation in Suffolk, but as we've been discussing, both with Philip there and Andrew, this could be the new normal. Thank you so much. Right, now to football's deepening civil war, and European nations have agreed to boycott the World Cup. That's if FIFA boss Gianni Infantino goes ahead with his controversial plans to sell off part of the tournament to private investors. Our sports correspondent Rob Harris has the details.
2 days ago, Sky News revealed that European nations were looking at boycotting the World Cup. Well, now, after an emergency UEFA meeting, European nations have decided that none of their teams will participate in any FIFA competitions as long as Gianni Infantino pursues a plan to sell off part of the World Cup to private investors. He'd been plotting this in private, and that's what UEFA are so concerned about. They talk about how it was conceived in secret and how that was irresponsible and indefensible. FIFA trying to sell off 20% of the rights to a new venture they say will be valued at $20 billion, around £15 billion, to these private investors. And UEFA said that they unanimously and unequivocally rejected it after the meeting of all the members today. And they say this was not a democratic decision to put forward these proposals by FIFA, but governance by intimidation, calling it an act of coercion when FIFA does have responsibilities to be the custodians of the global game. FIFA has been insisting that there is a consultation process, but they're given their 211 members only until September the 19th to decide whether they're in or out. And in information I've uncovered today, dangling the prospect of an $84 million windfall if they opt in, and much less from FIFA funds if they don't back the plans. So now, that is why UEFA have gone so strongly in public against FIFA. And this is what part of the statement says. No UEFA national teams will participate in any FIFA competition for so long as these proposals remain alive, unless this proposal has been abandoned in its entirety and binding assurances have been given that FIFA will never again open its governance or competitions to private ownership. There have been a lot of concerns about how this funding has been put in place, with links to Donald Trump. Joshua Kushner, the brother of Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is leading on the investment. And UEFA has said that FIFA cannot continue to use our sport to enrich themselves and their friends. So now UEFA have become the first confederation of the six to say that they will not participate in any World Cup competition if Gianni Infantino pursues these very controversial and divisive plans.
Earlier on, I spoke to David Davies, former executive director of the English FA, and I asked him whether European nations would actually go ahead with their threat.
Those of us who've been here before in the days of Mr. Blatter as the General Secretary and Chief Executive and President of FIFA, never thought we'd see those sort of days again. For me, this is, for UEFA, make up your mind time. I mean, the relationship between FIFA and UEFA has gone downhill again in recent years. And here we have 55 nations. Their strength is their unity. For example, there is no point in England alone or Germany alone or France alone coming out of something like the World Cup. Together, yes, they can knock a huge hole in the World Cup, and is a World Cup, a truly World Cup without Europe. On the other hand, 55 members of UEFA, and there are some 211 members of FIFA these days. So Europe are not in a majority. And there are countries, a significant number of countries in the world, who are not great fans of Europe. I can tell you of that, and they're not great fans of UEFA.
Are they great fans of these plans? Because, you know, UEFA coming out strongly, is the same scepticism and anger being felt by other bodies? Because, as you said, you know, UEFA is one of 6 continental bodies to make up FIFA. How are these potential moves going down elsewhere in the world?
Stuck away in today's news has been the suggestion that the Asian Confederation is not impressed with these plans. CONCACAF, which is North America and the Caribbean in particular, a lot of members of FIFA in CONCACAF from the Caribbean, they may be sceptical as well. But it remains to be seen. Look, if you're offered, what is it, 3 times, 4 times the money you're getting at the moment, not all confederations, believe you me, are like England or Germany or France or Italy. There are a lot of small nations, not least in Europe as well. I mean, for example, doubling, trebling your money, your income, for Andorra, for a lot of smaller Eastern European countries, is quite a big thing. So I apologise for being a sceptic of whether European unity will hold. I think we may be in for a lot of horse trading between now and later this year.
Yeah, the stakes are high in every sense. I mean, on the most base level, this is a money-making exercise, and FIFA touts itself as a not-for-profit organisation. You know, Gianni Infantino said that just before the World Cup, yet here we have them selling off stakes in arguably the sport's biggest competition. Why are they doing this? What is their reasoning behind it? Can they reason it away to get countries on board? Because, as you said, this would mean a lot to smaller nations.
That's the whole point. When they say they're not-for-profit, a not-for-profit organisation, they mean the huge sums of money that they already make, they share out amongst 211 nations. And by the way, you know, when you're in one of the smaller nations, say one of the Caribbean countries, and your money is going to increase threefold, fourfold, and by the way, you've just had a pretty financially successful, rightly or wrongly, World Cup in North America. This is a big thing to turn down, to vote against.
Yeah, you look at, you know, nations like Curacao in the World Cup who had their moment, and the kind of money, the difference this could make to them in terms of building on that World Cup dream. This has been seen as probably, I mean, there have been quite a few, but Gianni Infantino's most controversial moment. Could this be the moment that brings an end to his time at FIFA? Can we look that far ahead?
If I'd got £1 for every time I was told Mr. Blatter's reign was coming to an end over the 13 years I was at the FA, I would be quite wealthy. Let me put that to you. Once you are elected as president of FIFA, it's not like being Prime Minister of the United Kingdom these days. It's a role that people seem to stay there for a remarkably long period of time. And, you know, you need, what is it, half of 211 nations, 100 and something nations to support you, and I am sure there will be significant support for Mr. Infantino. Having said all that, as I say, I think it's make up your mind time for Europe and for certain individuals in Europe who do not approve of the way Mr. Infantino, ironically a European, formerly General Secretary of UEFA, would you believe, he could be challenged, but if you're going to challenge him, you need to get your nomination in by November, I think it is, of this year.
We heard David Davis mention them there. Tonight, CONCACAF, the federation that oversees football in North and Central America and the Caribbean, has also rejected FIFA's proposal. It says its members have expressed deep concerns about the lack of due process surrounding the proposal, the artificially short deadline imposed, and the absence of any review or approval by the relevant FIFA governance bodies. Plenty more on that to come. In other news today, 4 people have died while trying to reach the UK after the busiest day for migrant channel crossings so far this year. Yesterday, 752 migrants made the journey across the channel in 9 boats. Our correspondent Amelia Harper has been following this story for us today. Amelia, what can you tell us?
So, SJ, 2 separate incidents involving those individuals who sadly died. So, French authorities say that about 6 o'clock this morning, they came across a boat off the coast of Dunkirk, Sadly, they found 3 people that were unresponsive on that boat. They were then taken ashore, but unfortunately, resuscitation attempts were unsuccessful. Then there was a second incident where an individual reportedly drowned off the northern coast of France. And you were saying there that this comes amid really record high numbers now for this year in terms of daily arrivals. So yesterday, and these are the latest figures that we had 752 migrants that arrived in the UK on 9 boats. And just to put those numbers into perspective, that's roughly 84 people per boat. And that takes the provisional total arrivals for this year now, to this date, to over 14,100. And to just put these numbers into an even wider context, the numbers that we are seeing, they are lower than what we would see by this point last year, 42% down on the figures last year and 15% down on the figures the year before that. In terms of the worst day in terms of arrivals that we have ever seen, was back in actually September 2022. We had 1,305 people. So it is lower than that, but of course very concerning whenever we have any deaths. And this just comes days after the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, said the government does have a plan to tackle this, but he did admit that they need to perhaps do a little bit more. In April, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, signed a very expensive deal, a 3-year deal with the French, costing £662 million to try to tackle the problem of small boats. A couple of elements. The French are expected to prevent hundreds of migrants from arriving on UK shores. They also are expected to bring in riot police as well. I think this is not the last time that we are going to be talking about this. We do see these numbers go up in the summer, so I think we might be here talking about this again.
OK, Amelia, thank you, Amelia Harper, across that story for us tonight. So to come on the UK tonight.
In 2023, Eleanor Williams was convicted of faking evidence that she had been abused by an Asian gang in the seaside town of Barrow-in-Furness.
The new Sky documentary that re-examines allegations of grooming in Cumbria. In May 2020, a teenager from Barrow in Cumbria claimed to have been the victim of a grooming gang. Ellie Williams' allegations triggered national outrage and led to racially motivated attacks in Barrow. But they were a lie, and Ellie was sentenced to 8.5 years in jail for perverting the course of justice. Now, a new Sky documentary, Groomed, the truth behind the lie, sheds new light on the case and reveals a troubling story of real abuse and survivors who were failed by the authorities.
In 2023, Eleanor Williams was convicted of faking evidence that she had been abused by an Asian gang in the seaside town of Barrow-in-Furness.
She definitely lied, but the question is why.
Grooming has been going on in Barrow, and it's been going on a long time.
There was dozens of girls making similar allegations.
I tried to come forward, but I wasn't believed.
There's truth in what she's saying.
Stuff that she knows you wouldn't know if you weren't involved.
I was arrested less than 24 hours after reporting a grooming gang in Barrow.
It's the easy route, just shut these girls up.
It's an open secret in this area.
Well, I've been speaking to Sky producer Liz Lane, whose initial investigation sparked this documentary, and Ian Piper, father of Ellie Reynolds, one of the abuse survivors featured in this documentary. I asked Ian why his family had chosen to speak out.
When Ellie first made her claims to the police, and they did eventually inform us of what was going on, we constantly was told, you know, keep quiet, we're getting there, don't say anything, we're not that far off, you know, keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet. And it was my wife that said, something's not right, you know, start banging some drums. So we started asking questions and just took it from there, because we couldn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. We was always being fobbed off.
What was that like as a family? Because to deal with that on a personal level, to bring the police into it, and then to open yourself up, out of desperation, let's face it, because you feel that Ellie's case hasn't been taken seriously. What has that been like for you, Ian?
I was asked the other week by someone, how do you cope? And you don't, as a parent, you don't. And you don't let your kids see that. You know, you as parents have to be the strong ones for your kids. We do our crying out of the way. Hard is an underestimated statement. It's probably one of the most gut-wrenching things you could go through as a parent, to know that that's happened to your child.
Liz, it was important for you to go to Barrow and talk to other victims to provide a picture of what is going on in this town, because we call it a national grooming scandal because it is happening up and down the country, and the feeling was that the focus was taken away from Barrow because Ellie Williams was found to be lying. But you and so many others thought there was more to that. Perhaps you can describe what you've uncovered that links Ellie and other victims you've spoken to Ellie Williams, that everything that connects them in that town. What's the pattern you've uncovered?
Well, so in the trial, I was at Ellie Williams' trial, and I had already heard of this one particular man that she had accused, who was not one of the 5 men that she was eventually convicted of lying about, but his name did come up in her trial. And I knew that he had been accused elsewhere, and that actually he was due to be going on trial himself for historical grooming offences in Barrow from 2008 to 2010. So I kind of, as I was watching her trial unfold, knew that there was potentially more to it, that she had actually named somebody who had been accused by other people. And this man went on to be convicted alongside 2 of his brothers for multiple grooming offences, rape of children in Barrow and Leeds, some of the children as young as 7. And this man is also somebody that Ian's Ellie says was one of her main abusers as well.
In this documentary, you talk about the fact that grooming gangs has been a bit of a political hot potato, for want of a better phrase. And, you know, governments talk about tackling it, but it's almost as if the starting point is being missed, the root cause of it, identifying it, having a conversation about it because people find it uncomfortable. Liz, what does it say about the wider picture of what is happening with grooming gangs in terms of getting to the root cause and really helping survivors?
I mean, obviously the big elephant in the room is the ethnicity issue, which has been dodged for decades. And, you know, Louise Casey did her rapid review for the government and said it is a disgrace, really, that still the majority of police forces aren't recording the ethnicity of perpetrators. And if you don't actually understand who's carrying out the abuse, you know, one way or the other, whoever it might be, you can't actually tackle it, and you don't, you know, you can't figure out these patterns. But also, the vacuum of information means it can then be exploited for whoever might have a certain agenda, one way or the other. So, you know, this case is like every other single case where people feel that they're not being given the full picture.
Yeah. Ian, what have you thought of the fact that this issue has been heavily politicised? We know that the far right have taken on this issue, and right-wing politics have now got a foothold in Barrow. And for many people, it's because they're talking about something other political figures won't. What's your whole view of the politicisation of this?
If I'm honest, the far right are right so far because they're the only ones that are willing to speak about it. They're not afraid to mention the ethnicity without being branded racist. You know, there is no such thing as racism in this. It's rapist, not racism. It doesn't matter what colour their skin is, what religion they are. You're committing child rape and child abuse. It's wrong. You know, too many establishments are too fearful of being branded the racist and the blame culture society that we have got.
Ian, what do you want to happen now? What does Ellie want to happen now? How is she?
She's doing all right. She's getting there. She's a strong little cookie. I hope she gets her justice. Somehow gets to put a bit of closure on it and move on.
How are you?
I'll be all right at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not just doing this for my own daughter. Someone said to me, oh, you'll just do this for your family. No, I won't. I'll help anyone because we've been through it for 8 years now. You know, when the country first went into lockdown, we had already been living that for 2 years. That's how we lived. So I will help anyone and, you know, support them as best I can.
We do have a new Prime Minister in Andy Burnham. There's a lot coming at him at the moment from a lot of different causes and issue, but this is one that the public are really invested in. We talk about grooming gangs a lot, but the actual action when it comes to grooming gangs, people feel that is still lacking, despite us talking more openly about it now, as we should do. What would you say to the new Prime Minister?
Get a grip. Get a grip of it. Don't cover it. If you're a man of your word, get it sorted.
Well, in response to Ian's claims, Cumbria Constabulary has rejected the suggestion that it intended to silence Ellie Reynolds or her family. The force says it investigated Ellie's allegations and presented the evidence to the Crown Prosecution Service, who concluded there was not a realistic prospect of securing a conviction. The force says senior officers met Ian on several occasions to discuss the investigation as well as safeguarding and support. The constabulary acknowledges that victim support practices may not always have met the desired standard and says it is committed to protecting children and young people. It says it has strengthened its response through various initiatives and continues to learn from feedback. And a reminder that you can watch Groomed, The Truth Behind a Lie, from Sunday, the 2nd of August. It will be broadcast on Sky Documentaries at 9 o'clock in the evening, and it will be available as a box set on Sky and Now. Still to come on the programme, the fugitive fraudster tracked down in Tenerife by Sky News, now facing justice in the UK. And in sport, a big shock today for Newcastle fans, Eddie Howe stepping down as head coach.
Mr. Trump, James Matthews from Sky News.
Hey, James.
I'm James Matthews, and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C. Mr. President, what will you say next to Benjamin Netanyahu? In June 2009, did you stay at the apartment in Manhattan of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent. I've interviewed some of America's most recognisable politicians. Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? The UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting.
Mr Walker, you're anti-abortion, but two women say that you paid for their abortions. Are you a hypocrite, sir?
Connor, what did you say to the president? What did you say?
We had a great meeting. He was a great man.
I'm David Blevins, one of Sky's US correspondents based in Washington, D.C. David Blevins from Sky News. Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What have you got to say to that?
I've witnessed the remarkable passion for politics here.
Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism? I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Why is this just an American problem?
The anger too, and the division.
Where are you from? From Sky News, UK.
Yeah.
Back up.
Mr. Navarro, can
Well, it's
you
my, I'm allowed to
Mr.
ask questions,
Navarro?
aren't I?
I'm Mark Stone, and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Vladimir Putin calls you outstanding, Mr. Musk. Has your ego and ignorance, sir, cost Ukrainian lives?
David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
Mr. Patel, did you endanger public safety when you said the killer was in custody?
Free wherever you get your news.
What words do you have for Harry Dunn's family today?
Have a nice day.
Do you fear a fourth indictment?
People that pod together, they have a little hive brain going on. They've not had a good week.
I've had a good week. There's a teaser there, a teaser.
Ooh. OK, nothing to see here. Drama over. Full stop. Anyway, we'll get to that. She will be mortified.
Because she's the first female chancellor.
I popped upstairs, made myself a cheese sandwich, and now I'm with you.
Analyse has come dressed in the magenta of electoral dysfunction. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
A fugitive fraudster tracked down in Tenerife by Sky News has been flown to the UK and detained after more than a year on the run. Pamela Gwinnett isolated vulnerable pensioner Joan Green from her family, then raided £300,000 from her life savings, spending it on luxuries, including Botox treatments. Well, our correspondent Phoebe Southworth, who tracked down Pamela Gwinnett in the Canary Islands, is at Manchester Airport this evening for a significant part of this story. Explain to us what's going on tonight, Phoebe.
Yeah, it really is an extraordinary story of greed and also cowardice. Pamela Gwinnett, the runaway fraudster who we tracked down to Tenerife earlier this year, has now finally come back to the UK after more than a year on the run. Well, when we confronted Pamela Gwinnett earlier this year at a very picturesque apartment block in Tenerife where she'd been hiding out, we asked her why she had defrauded Joan Green, a very vulnerable pensioner, out of £300,000 and then spent it on luxuries like expensive meals, a £22,500 car, and perhaps most grotesquely on Botox treatments as well. Well, she has now finally been extradited back to the UK to serve a 6-year prison sentence that a judge handed down last year. Pamela Gwinnett had left the country before that sentence was handed down, very seemingly with the intention of evading justice. But she's now been extradited, and we joined Greater Manchester police officers this evening as they made that arrest here at Manchester Airport. Well, we could see through the terminal door Pamela putting on a pair of sunglasses when she saw that we were outside waiting for her, and then she made a very long walk back to the police van where she was then whisked away by officers. We can show you a bit of the footage just now when we asked her a few questions. Do you still intend to appeal your conviction and sentence, Pamela?
The cops a bit of space.
Is that yes, Pamela?
Yeah. Under arrest for failure to appear. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence. Do not mention when questions when you later arrive in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. The necessity for your arrest is to prevent escape. Okay?
Can I just take this back?
Yeah.
Just do a sight date for you.
Right. But do you want me to do a quick search before you go on, okay?
You want to take it off?
Is there anything on you that could harm you on it? Anything sharp or anything that could harm you? You just part your legs for us. Yeah.
Guys, what's about this car?
We just need to do
Pamela, would you like to say sorry to Joan Green's family? Are you worried your sentence is going to be increased, Pamela? You've been away more than a year. Well, Well, as you can see, Pamela Gwinnett was remaining very tight-lipped when we spoke to her just outside the terminal building here. But I don't know if you could see when I asked her if she was still intending to appeal her conviction and sentence, there was the faintest of nods. So it seems like she's still resolute, as she told us earlier this year in Tenerife, that she has done nothing wrong. Well, a couple of things might be on Pamela Gwinnett's mind this evening. First of all, the life she's left behind in Tenerife. We heard from neighbours she was living in the lap of luxury. She was seen swimming in the communal pool at this lovely apartment complex she was at. People who knew her said she enjoyed shopping trips. She was out getting her nails done at the nail salon. So that's something that she's going to not be seeing for a number of years now, at least 6. And perhaps also Pamela will be thinking about potentially tomorrow her 6-year sentence for fraud and other offences being increased because of the fact she absconded. But an extraordinary conclusion here tonight in Manchester to a case that we followed so closely, and immense relief from Joan Green, the victim's family, that Gwinnett is now going to face justice here in the UK.
Phoebe Southworth with the story there. Remarkable scenes from Manchester Airport tonight. Phoebe, thank you. Right, let's turn our attention to sport, shall we? James is here, and Newcastle United fans will have got a bit of a shock when they got their news alerts on their phones this morning. Eddie Howe stepping down as head coach. The only Newcastle manager to win a trophy in the last 70 years, resigned and not sacked. What's gone on?
Yeah, it was a very strange one, this, because I was on Sky Sports News last night and we were featuring a post-match interview after Newcastle lost a pre-season friendly to Bristol City. Eddie Howe was there speaking, saying, yeah, it's fine, it's a nice warm. It was just so normal.
All fairly innocuous, yeah.
Nothing going on. And then obviously the alerts came through this morning and he's left. Now, what we understand is actually this has been something in motion now for a number of weeks. So a decision's been made by Eddie Howe that he sees his future away. Perhaps Newcastle see their future away from Eddie Howe. He's been at the club for nearly 5 years, done a remarkable job in charge of that club, took over. They were 19th in the Premier League table. He took them to that success, winning the League Cup, their first trophy for over 70 years, 2 Champions League campaigns. And last season, things just didn't go right. They didn't go right from the start of the season when they lost their best player to Liverpool, Alexander Isak, for about £130 million. But it dragged on. It was a really messy situation. And it felt like that had a knock-on effect to their season. They ended up 12th in the Premier League, lost 17 Premier League games last season, struggled in the Champions League a little bit, got through, and then were heavily knocked out in the end. I think it was by PSG. And it just felt like perhaps his time's been up. And Newcastle, the ownership, they've decided to go down a different direction in terms of the player recruitment. This summer, they've sold their biggest players, their biggest stars, Sandro Tonali to Tottenham for £100 million, sold Anthony Gordon to Barcelona for £75 million, and likely their captain is going to be announced as an Arsenal player in the next few days for around £75, £80 million as well. So all the bigger players are going. They're now recruiting younger players. For a manager and a coach, it means they're going to have to go for another rebuild. And it's a lot for a coach. And so it's a lot of energy that's required to do that. So I think, unsurprisingly, they've gone their separate ways. And it looks likely a guy called Matthias Geisler might be taking over. He currently manages Al Ali in the Saudi Arabian Pro League, a young 38-year-old manager. He looks like he's going to be the one to take over. He's got an interesting CV. This is him on the screen right now. Worked at the academy in RB Salzburg, the Red Bull Group, and yeah, look, he could be an exciting talent, someone that Newcastle are really keen to bring on board. So look, that's the story around Eddie Howe, but we've also got a story of a new appointment for England's cricket's test side.
Right, here we are. First day back, I suppose. It kind of feels like, doesn't it? How is the feeling? Because everything feels quite new around here.
Now, of course, first day of pre-season with the full squad outside on the pitch today, and the first team meeting talking about our season ambition and who we want to be. It's been a great day, and of course, I'm very excited. Yeah.
How does it feel? I mean, it feels odd coming here. I haven't been shouted at by Katie McCabe or given a big hug by Beth Mead. There is a different feeling here today.
Yeah, you'll get them at some point, just not around Arsenal. Yeah, of course, they are legends of the club on what they've done for Arsenal, and for me it was a pleasure working with them as well. In both of them there's so much football intelligence, and learned from them, and I think Katie, with her leadership, her vocality on the pitch, same with Beth, very energetic, vocal on the pitch. Of course, we'll miss that. But yeah, it's a new season and we have a lot of great players coming in, and there will be new dynamics, and we have a lot of leadership in the squad as it stands, and then it's always interesting in the group dynamics, how are these different roles going to.
Right, let's take a quick look at the weather.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News weather.
Well, it's cooler for most of us and more settled, but there is no significant rain expected over England and Wales. Mainly dry and quite sunny into this evening. Southeastern Britain looking quite cloudy. Northwestern parts of both the UK and Ireland can expect a few showers. They'll be concentrated over northwestern Scotland, where some thundery downpours look likely. Showers will continue there overnight, with a few developing over northwestern England later. Elsewhere, mostly dry and clear, although cloudier for the southeast. East Anglia may see a few heavy, possibly thundery showers.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News weather.
That's all from the UK tonight. Up next, it's the world with Yalda. We're taking a break for the summer and we will be back in September, so I'll see you then.